It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, July 25th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that's doing a then and now look at a couple of Flyers key draft picks.
All right, I like that.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here, as always, with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. To keep up with our episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just want to get this out of the way. The Hockey Canada trial is over, and none of these guys have contracts anywhere. That's kind of that, and we're moving on.
Yep.
All right. So between our last show and this show, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms made a couple of signings to add to their roster for some AHL level contracts. They confirmed the signing that we already knew about of the couple of goaltenders and Keith Petruzzelli and Peretz. So that's good. They also added a winger in Carson Golder, who played with the Manitoba Moose previously. And Ben Meehan, who's a left-handed defenseman who had been in the LA Kings organization prior as well, and most recently played for UMass Lowell, with a solid, if not unremarkable record. But I think, that's when you're signing AHL level talent, this is the kind of guy who you're going to sign, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you look at it and, we'll see what he does there. He played until he was a graduate student, so he stayed there, long. And so
yeah, he's older. He's 24, so that'll be good to have that size and
he
experience.
Has a little age to him, and that should help him.
Yeah, I think so. But there are a couple of guys who
should I also point out he's from Wapole, Massachusetts, because I just feel like because he played at UMass, he's a local UMass guy, and so it's like, there'll be some fans of him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. So now a couple of other guys who will be likely spending some time with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms this year are Devin Kaplan and Emil Andre. And I thought we'd take a look at what we thought of him at their time of drafting versus now, and if we would have drafted differently or picked him in a different spot in the draft, and kind of how their development has gone since then. We're starting with Devin Kaplan, who was a third rounder in the 2022 draft, drafted 69th overall. At that time, Bob McKenzie had him at 67. Central Scouting had him at 61 in the North American rankings. And I went way back into the notes for the post-draft episode for that day. That it's really interesting because most rankings overall, and not just those two, had him 6 to 8 spots higher overall. And that at the time, Brent Flair said that there was a specific organizational plan to get bigger in that draft, which they did, and he was part of it. But it was also kind of a product of how the draft fell that year. They didn't expect Devin Kaplan to be there at that pick, so they were very happy to get him then.
Yeah, I think my initial thoughts were I had watched him in the NTDP. He was like a fourth line energy guy for them, checking role. And, it's on an elite team, especially in those days. It was really, really good. And so, yeah, that was something where it's like, okay, I see the value in him. At that point, I was probably saying third or fourth line. And so, you watched him and you were like, okay, yeah, he's a bigger guy. Let's see if his offense develops. That was going to be the big thing.
Right. And he was a depth forward for the development program at that time as well, even as kind of in the top end of the U18 program there. So that's why you would project him
and they were stacked
in that way. Yeah. That was a very stacked team.
So, I didn't even see a ton of them, but I saw enough that I at least had that opinion of them. And so if you fast forward it, over the years, had kept an eye on them, felt like there's more offense to come. Maybe should there be? By last year, we were like, we're not sure. And now we're like, okay, he looks like a fourth line guy, almost similar to what the NTDP used him as. Fourth line checking guy, plays defense, skates well enough, not great skater, not a bad skater, and could play in the NHL, but he would be a fourth liner and a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think so. And, obviously we saw he got his ELC in April, played one game at the NHL level at the end of the season, but seems very clear that this is going to be a big developmental year for him with the Phantoms and just adjusting to the pro game and getting all the kinks out so that there is an opportunity for him to get a fourth line kind of call up maybe late in the season or the following year is kind of what I think we're looking at, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. Is he a guy that's willing to go to the net? Sure. Maybe he finds a little bit of a role that way. So, but he's got to, get a little bit more, get a few more reps. And so the AHL is perfect for a guy like this. He's still only 21.
Right. I think there's time for him. I think given what his ceiling is and the style of player he is, I think this is a perfect kind of scenario for him to develop at the AHL level, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I think he'll put the pressure on himself because he's a competitor and he's that guy. But organizationally,
there's not much pressure.
There's just not much pressure. So this is going to be a really, really good opportunity for him. And again, with the new coaching staff in place across the board, I think he's going to get the attention that he needs in Lehigh Valley. And when we're looking at what John Snowden said about those key prospects that are going to get additional workouts with more attention for player development, absolutely believe Devin Kaplan is part of that conversation. And he's going to get that extra attention again in a more sheltered environment. So that maybe again, late in the season that we're looking at, we'll see where he's at. And I think it'll be a really good year for him, or it should be a really good year for him. It is interesting when you look at that 2022 draft, you look at Alex Bump getting drafted in the 5th round and Hunter McDonald getting drafted in the 6th round, both guys getting drafted, a couple rounds, 3 rounds later than Devin Kaplan in that draft, maybe getting a little bit more play and organizational attention, deserve it or not, and I would split the difference on those two guys for sure. But I think it's really interesting to see where Devin Kaplan fell in that draft for the Flyers and where things are now.
Yeah, I think the fact that he played at the NTDP helped him, and it helps a lot of guys in the draft, and it helps boost the profile. So they had a little more info on him than even an Alex Bump at the time.
Right. And I think that, seeing him at development camp this year versus the first year, I actually looked at my notes from development camp his first year, and the thing that I noted was that his passing was really good. And it was funny because Cutter Gauthier was at that development camp, and that the two of them had some chemistry. I think,
because they had been on the
scrimmages.
Same
team. Right. And that just shows the development team program and how that works. But I just found just what I thought of him then versus now, where I do think his game has changed a little bit. I think that's partially due to how his usage was at Boston University, right?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think he's a smart player. He's one of those guys that will keep the puck and keep it in your offensive end. And, maybe he's not always going to, be an offensive threat, but he will, help his teammates out, and he'll make good defensive plays. So that's essentially what I saw from him at Boston University. And I felt like he could break up plays. He was good along the wall. He would, paste some guys on the wall when he had to, and that's good too. And I think that'll continue.
Yeah, I think one of the things he's probably going to work on a lot this year is his shot, which hasn't developed as much as the other aspects of his game. But again, this is the opportunity for him to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But and other guys need to work on their shot too. But
Oh,
I think
really? I mean, I've never heard that.
but with Devin Kaplan in particular, I think there's a true opportunity because he hasn't been used for his offensive side as much. And so he's going to have to round out that part of his game. And so I'm looking forward to, that increasing. I think, his shot is something that could be used effectively to create rebound opportunities as far as his style of game. And so that's probably where that's going.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets on the power play, it's because he'll go to the net.
Exactly.
That's it. Otherwise, he's not going to be on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, in the AHL, maybe he will, but like at the NHL, no way.
Right. I think that's fair, but definitely one of the guys that could make a huge impact with the Phantoms this year.
And for him. Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing how his development goes again with this new coaching staff. A guy who's been kind of on the borderline here for a couple of years and is a little bit older is Emil Andre. And this is a pivotal year for him. We're going to talk about him coming up next.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You could track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're building wealth. The thing I love about Monarch Money is it helps you keep track of the day-to-day and reduce unnecessary spending on things like takeout, but also helps you plan on and budget for big purchases like a new car or a house, all at the same time. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
All right, next week we will be continuing some of these then and now looks, plus the latest with the Flyers. We'll have a new Nemesis of the Week on Monday and a new poll question. We're going to get to your poll results about the Flyers vibes in the next segment here. But Emil Andre was drafted in the second round, 54th overall in the 2020 NHL draft. And I think he's been a real enigma, I think, in a lot of ways for the Flyers here. And I remember very specifically in that 2020 draft, looking at him as a potential first round pick. And the fact that he went in the second round was definitely a surprise at the time. And I think that it was partially he dropped because of his size. Let's be clear.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that.
5'9", right? But he was such a top European prospect amongst all the conversations that were happening that it seemed like he was likely going to go in the late first round. So then he drops to the second round for the Flyers, and that just the big doubt was his size. You looked at, what Corey Pronman said at the time, and you looked at the scouting reports that everything about his game is really great. I think that he really kind of lost some steam because U18s got canceled in 2020. Yep. So he didn't have an opportunity to show his game at that time. So he didn't have a chance to kind of prove people wrong. And there maybe had been some knocks on his skating that weren't true anymore.
At that time they were, yeah.
Yeah, but his skating had improved, but he hadn't had a chance to prove it because there weren't games, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting pick. I was not a person that had him in the first round. I didn't have enough on him that I probably wouldn't have had him at that pick either. I would have taken Mason Lowery, the guy that the Bruins did, because I had seen him a lot more. And so I was more comfortable with his game. That said, I remember when they took him, I was like, hey, the guy has offensive ability and he's going to be an offensive defenseman. There's no way around it. He still is.
There was a lot of talk about him becoming a power play quarterback at the time.
Yeah. And he still is. That's what he is. I think the Flyers were right in saying, hey, you got to sort of stay out of the way of, they said defend yourself. I don't know if defend yourself is exactly the way I'd put it, but basically stay out of the harm's way. Bobby Brink used to have that problem, and he doesn't have that problem anymore. So I think they were right to say that to him. In the AHL, he's tremendous, but again, now that Ian LaPerriere is gone, I don't think that was a big help to him when he would get sent down for the Flyers for no good reason. Like when John sent him down, they had a winning record with him. And I think that really disrupted his season. I do. And I think it disrupted his development in that season. And then when he went down, it took him a while to kind of get things going because it's free flow. It's not really any system. There's nothing that's the same, right? So, and I think he still proved himself. I watched some later games again and footage, and he's always creating offense. Like whether it's a pass, whether it's whatever, when he's on the ice, offense was happening in the AHL. So at the NHL level, it's different because you can't always do that, but his passing is really good. His skating is improved. There's no question it's not bad, and it's not above average, but it's just like a tick maybe over average, but it's not above average. It's not a great skater. As far as the power play stuff, really, really good. And the one thing that I see that I think is going to be something, the next thing for him, because he is feisty. He, it's not like he's afraid of.
Definitely.
I mean, there's no question but he does get overpowered on some plays. And so that's the thing in holding on to the puck. And I think if he can get past that, everything else will be really good for him.
Right. I think we saw at the NHL level that he was definitely making some mistakes defensively, especially kind of getting beat along the boards.
Along the wall is where he gets overpowered. And that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
And that, he would just get beat on those one-on-ones. And John Tortorella did not abide by that. And so that's why he would get benched or he would get sent down. And I think that the difference between the AHL and the NHL level was enough that Emil Andre suffered from having to make that adjustment. And the way they used him, and to your point, and the point we've been making for years about the different system between the NHL and AHL when Tortorella was in charge, this was the perfect storm of badness for Emil Andre in terms of his development.
This is how a guy can get caught up in it.
Right. And I think that in a lot of ways, he did suffer from all of that. In some ways, you're a pro hockey player and you have to adjust and you have to learn. And so you could probably say it was a little of both, right? A little column A, a little of column B, where Emil Andre didn't necessarily rise to the challenge all the time. But at the same time, he was not put in the best position to succeed. And I find with him, he's in this weird middle ground here. The unfortunate circumstance around this upcoming year, again, it's the last year of his ELC. So he's got a lot to prove here for the Flyers in terms of getting another contract with the team, or is there even a place for him here? I think that, again, we're in a weird situation where he's got a new coach, right, at both levels that are going to work together. And this could work to his advantage. And this could be really, really good because I think Rick Tocchet's system and then now by default, John Snowden's to some degree are going to be a better system for Emil Andre and his game and use him better effectively offensively while trying to continue to build his defensive game. But is there going to be room at the NHL level for him to prove it? That's now. And that's the question I have at this point. I don't know that there is. Right.
That's a fair question. I think, look, for people that are probably like, well, I don't know what he's going to be. I mean, you're talking about 96 AHL games. So it's not even 2 full seasons. He's 23. It's not like he's 25. I always give defensemen until they're 25, regardless of where they're picked, 2nd round, 7th round. But the other thing is he only has 46 games at the NHL level. He's not even experienced a full season there. So he's like in between on both. Like you would have liked him at this point to maybe have 2 full AHL seasons. Didn't happen. I would have actually traded.
And he was also hurt.
And he was hurt. And that definitely took away from it too. So all those things, some of it falls on him, some of it falls on coaching. So this year it's all going to be on him because now we're all going to give the benefit of the doubt to the new coaches and he's going to have to do it. So yeah, we'll see. This is a big year for him.
Yeah, I think the other argument that's out there is that we already have Jamie Drysdale, right? And so why do we need Emil Andre And why do we need another smaller defenseman in particular? And
I think the answer.
it's a fair question, but also continue.
Yeah, I could give the answer on that because Andre's shot hits the net more than Jamie Drysdale's. That's the answer. And if Jamie can't do that, Andre can on the power play.
Yeah, I find Emil Andre's offensive game to be a lot more diverse than Jamie Drysdale. I think there's just lot more right now. I think there's a lot more tools in the arsenal there in terms of different moves he can make, different kind of shots he can make. Now, will Jamie Drysdale get better, and could we see more roundedness to his offensive game? 100%. I don't deny that that's a possibility, but I think that's where Emil Andre's opportunity is going to come in, right? Because he does have a more well-rounded game offensively than Jamie Drysdale does right now.
Yeah, Emil Andre hits the net 46% of the time, according to Instat. So that's pretty good. Like that's, from a defenseman, that's going to create chances. And he's at 0.67 hits per game. Jamie Drysdale shots on goal, 34%. 0.16 hits per game. Now you can say, all right, Jamie's not going to hit anybody. Fine. I'll just take that out. I'm just pointing out that there's a little bit of feistiness in Andre, but the shots on goal tells the story. Like that's your data. That's your data right there.
Absolutely. And when we did our episode a couple of weeks ago about the Flyers line predictions and what we thought they might be, we kind of had Andre as the 7th defenseman there at the Flyers level, which I think checks out, but also don't love him having to sit on the bench sometimes, because we really thought that Juleson would get the benefit of Tocchet's relationship with him in terms of having that 6th spot with Risto out. With Risto back in, who does that push out at that point? We don't know yet, because we don't know what the relationships are going to be and what the pairings are going to look like. But I think that's kind of where we're at in terms of him being a borderline. And I do wonder if it would serve Emil Andre better to be on the Flyers or the Phantoms to start this season.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably the Phantoms. New coach. He'll have fresh eyes with them. I mean, he won't have, he's seen them, obviously. He's been with, now he's more in charge. So that could help him. It's probably better with the Phantoms, to be honest.
Yeah, I think his camp is going to be one of the more interesting ones to keep an eye on for sure. So once training camp gets underway, we'll definitely be focusing on Emil Andre quite a bit from our perspective. But again, one of those decisions to be determined. We're going to talk about more players along these lines as the offseason continues. In the meantime, our poll question from this week asked you, are the Flyers vibes good? We're going to talk about those results coming up next. All right. So are the Flyers vibes good? We said yes on the Monday show. On the Wednesday show, we talked about why in a lot of ways and what the path to sustained success looks like for the Flyers and the timing of that. And so coming back around to this poll question, your options were to the question specifically, are the Flyers vibes good? The potential answers were yes, I'm all in and excited about the future. Pretty good, but I'm a little skeptical. Things are better, but still not good. And the sky is falling and everything is bad. And I am very heartened by the results of this poll. And I will say just up front, I talked to my mom about this. She voted the pretty good, but I'm a little skeptical as a longtime season ticket holder.
All right. That matters.
So love to get mom's opinion on that, because she's the one that got me into hockey in the first place these many years ago. But the winner was yes, I'm all in and excited about the future at 40%.
That's good. That's good. And I don't know if the numbers should be higher. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's about right. If you are generally positive about this team, I think you look at those top 2 responses in total, that adds up to 74% of the fan base are either, yes, I'm really excited about the future, or pretty good, but I'm a little skeptical. And I think, you look at the last dozen years
There's reasons to be both ways.
There's reasons to be both ways. I think so. I do think the math is math in here, pretty on target. And a couple of comments from people who said that I'm all in. Robert said, I believe that management are doing their best in putting a quality team together. I like how they utilize their draft position this year, picking big, highly skilled picks. In the past, some were not developed properly, but I believe the Flyers will do everything to make sure no one will fall through the cracks due to rushing players to the NHL. And I think that's an important point.
Yeah, I mean, Porter Martone going to college, holds that up. Like it basically that supports that.
Yeah. And then Clobber in Time said, I'm all in. I think Snowden will make a big impact on our prospects, and I like what Danny has done. I'm picturing a decent season this year, just barely missing the playoffs, and a huge offseason with next year being our year. And that's kind of what I was suggesting in the timeline conversation we had on Wednesday. So I really like those responses. From the a little skeptical column of that overall 74% positive look, Kenneth said things are moving in a good direction, but some prospects need to pan out. A new coaching staff and the teaching they can do can hopefully help. More of the young guys on the roster need to show clearly they belong. Martone and Michkov really need to be what we all hope they can be. And I think that's fair. I think, in order to get to that sustained success, a lot of these guys have to pan out. Like the risks that the Flyers drafting has done needs to, come through in the end.
Yeah. I mean, a little pressure on Brent Flair there.
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. And I do think that, some people are a little bit more borderline than that for sure. With the 24%, things are better, but still not good. I think that's where some of the almost PTSD that some Flyers fans have come into play, which is not unfounded.
No.
To be clear, I think, it's important. Dave Town commented, I'd love to be all in on the changes the Flyers are making, but after the past dozen or so years, I'm a little jaded, have to keep the shields up. I'll believe the Flyers when they start to prove the changes are real and in the right direction. I'm a 50+ year fan and hanging in, but it's been difficult recently.
Keeping the shields up, is that like a Star Trek thing? Seems like it.
Or
so
any shield.
So the lasers don't so the lasers don't get into the ship bay, right? So they would put the shields up to deflect it. I feel like that's what he's saying there. But
again,
so he's like
I think
Captain
that's
Kirk.
fair.
He's Captain Kirk. He's in the seat there, and he's just kind of like, I'm not sure.
Interesting that you mentioned Kirk as the Star Trek reference since the last time you watched the show. But at any rate,
he is the only captain in my eyes. Sorry.
Listen, I'm a next gen Voyager.
That's okay.
Girl, so it's all good. It is all good. But yeah, I think that's fair. And Jason commented, better, but still not good. Their drafting decisions still lack to me. If they had the trio of Zeev, Higgins, and Eklund, I would have a better feeling going forward. The other trio to me is severely underwhelming to what could have been. But Jason gives the option or the possibility open that Briere could be right, and could have made the right decisions.
That is a possibility. I understand what he's saying. I'm largely there with him, but yeah, he's at least open to it.
Right. And I think that's where people are, and where I have been too with this drafting, that I feel like the drafting strategy hasn't been what I would do for the Flyers in those circumstances. I think they've played it a little safe. But also they've made some picks that were reaches. Yeah. That I think were not good reaches at that time. And, Jet Luchenko is certainly one of them, but Jet Luchenko has the ability to become a really talented center in the NHL. And we just don't know yet. And
no, so to back this part of it up though, like if Tuamala and Andre would have not to pan out, not having those second rounders will hurt.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be tough. Now, there were some people in the things are very bad category.
Of course.
And the Mr. Philadelphia commented, it's tough to talk Flyers hockey the past 15 years. It's just a bad franchise. It's a hard job. You talk about how to get better and it's never going to happen. And again, I do understand that, it was a very, very small sliver of the vote here at 1%.
But that's maybe 1% of our show. I think the number is actually higher, to be honest. I do hear this and I understand it. I root for teams that have never gotten good or haven't been good in 14, 15 years too. So I understand that mindset.
Yeah, it's really tough. It is really, really tough. And I think, when you have a lot of people who are in the fan base, like good majority of the fan base at this point, who have not experienced the Stanley Cup in their lifetime, it gets real difficult.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
I think so. I mean, I've experienced a Stanley Cup in my lifetime, but do I remember it? No, because I was such a small child that I don't have conscious memory of that time. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
So
you have to ask your parents, was I happy?
Yeah. Well, I have a t-shirt.
There you go.
To prove it. That's like, this big.
Yeah. I was going to say it doesn't fit anymore.
Very, very tight. No. It fits on like a teddy bear, maybe.
Right.
But like, still not great. Not great, but lots of good positivity here with these poll results. So we'll have another poll at the beginning of next week about an important Flyers topic in this point in the rebuild. We'll get to that then. Plus we'll have a new nemesis of the week and so much more. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. I am on the Friday show. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.